Hey, what is going on, guys? My name is Gamertag and I'm back for your daily Fortnite video. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you guys FaZe Jarvis' controller settings for Fortnite. Now, if you guys are going to enjoy the video, a like would be appreciated. On the contrary, if you genuinely dislike today's video, then feel free to leave a dislike. Also, if you're new around here and would like to see more daily Fortnite content like this in the future, then feel free to subscribe, as well as turning on those post notifications. With that out of the way, let's hop right into this. Today's video is going to be revolving around FaZe Jarvis' controller settings for Fortnite Battle Royale. A lot of times on my channel when I upload settings videos, they're my own settings. However, I figured I would take a turn for this video alone, try something new out, and share with you guys who I think is one of the greatest Fortnite console or just overall players on the platform of YouTube or Twitch. So we all know FaZe Jarvis. He's obviously one of the newest FaZe members, I believe, and he plays on an Xbox controller for Fortnite Battle Royale, and he is undeniably and arguably one of the best Fortnite players in the world. And I know a lot of people always like to focus on settings for Fortnite and obviously want to have the best settings for themselves, and are always curious as to what other players' settings are. So that's why I figured this video will be beneficial, whether you want to replicate his settings and use them for your own, or if you just want to have them around them. So without further ado, let's go ahead and hop right into his settings as of recently. So jumping right into it, his X and Y sensitivities. These sensitivities refer to free aiming, so when you're not aimed down sights with a weapon, or typically like when you're running around with a pickaxe, this is what this will affect. So his X sensitivity is at a 0.765, and his Y sensitivity is a little lower at a 0.745. I would also like to mention that these settings alone, the X and Y sensitivity, are the ones that most players actually tend to fluctuate with, and this just goes about how often they're playing the game. If you don't play as often, and maybe you're playing a little bit more inconsistently than normal, you'll typically lower them or raise them depending upon how you're playing with this. So his X and Y sensitivities as of right now are probably around this area. Again, they more than likely fluctuate, but again, currently 0.765 for X and 0.745 for Y. His controller targeting sensitivity is set to a 0.215. This is probably a lot lower than most people have theirs at, to be quite honest. Definitely a lot lower than I was expecting him to have his at. And more than likely the reason this is just because of slipstreams, and obviously players travel faster in those, so definitely tracking with that is going to be very important, as well as he plays a lot of competitive game modes, so like arena, and obviously trying to win the qualifiers for World Cup and things along those lines. So definitely having a low sensitivity to increase your accuracy is very, very important. So this is probably why it's a lot lower than most of you guys would expect, because accuracy in these high competition game modes is very important. His controller scope sensitivity is set to a 0.370. This is also a little lower than probably the average player's is, once again for the same reason of just having the best accuracy you could and just lowering the chances of missing your shots. So that's probably why those sensitivities are a lot lower than what you guys would expect. His controller building sensitivity is set to a 1.850. This, along with X and Y sensitivities, is another one that you guys will see probably will change quite often, and this one alone is not going to be nearly as drastic as you might expect. So the same thing kind of follows. If you play more consistently and you get used to it, then you'd probably raise it. This is one that more than likely goes up and down, but again, it's at a 1.850 as of now. His controller editing mode sensitivity is set to a 1.780. Both of these are quite high, and it's probably why his builds and edits are very clean and very precise. Not too high to the point it's out of control, and nowhere near too low to the point he can't keep up. Now, another setting he has changed that a lot of you guys might see as a surprise, however for me I kind of understand it, is his brightness setting. And he has this actually changed from a default value of 0.5 up to a max at 1.00. And the reason people actually raise their brightness values, especially competitive players, is due to the fact that it makes visuals a lot easier. Obviously, it might not look as appealing. However, players in dark areas, so let's say someone has a Black Knight skin on, or just a skin has a dark outfit on, and they're in like a shaded area or hiding in a room, it's going to be less difficult to see them with the higher brightness than with the lower brightness. Just allows the player models to stand out more, and it just overall will help you in those little aspects. So I know a lot of people are always confused as to why some people have their brightness values up, and that's kind of an explanation. Now, his keybinds, a lot of you guys probably wonder what his keybinds are. Keybinds are like the pinnacle of Fortnite settings. This and sensitivity is like the main thing everyone wants to know to improve their gameplay overall. So his keybind settings, he plays on a custom Builder Pro, as most people do. The few changes he has made is his edit button is set to the left analog stick. That is his edit button. I know he's been using this for the longest time, and I'm sure a lot of you guys are wondering what to do with sprint as of right now. Basically, he has sprint by default on, which is another miscellaneous setting you can turn on. I recommend everyone have sprint by default on. It'll help you a ton, and as you guys can see, it opens up a space for you to put a keybind on. So again, L3 is set to edit. His Y button is set to switch mode. This meaning basically when you're playing normally and then you bring out your blueprints to build. So Y again for him is to bring out his blueprints to build and vice versa. And then lastly, his main keybind setting change is B for toggle pickaxe. So basically for Y and B, he just kind of switched them around. And then lastly, his confirm button is set to Y. So again, going over that briefly, his B and Y button are basically reversed. So B is now toggle pickaxe and Y is now switch mode. And then his L3, which is left analog stick click in, is edit. And then lastly, his confirm button for editing is set to Y. Those are all of his keybind changes that he has made that is obviously going to be different than your own. So definitely if you like to replicate them, I'd also like to preface as a huge disclaimer, a lot of people when they make keybind changes, they don't stick with them because it's going to feel unnatural at first. They don't like that feeling, but I promise you guys, once you play maybe a couple days with it, you'll eventually get so used to it, it just becomes second nature. Of course, it becomes very natural feeling. So if you're really focused and set on trying to become a better player and replicate his settings, be aware that it's going to feel different at first. So definitely do the justice of giving yourself some time to get used to it. And then the last settings we're going to go over that he really has changed is going to be the dead zone settings. And dead zone settings is such a gray area in Fortnite. Not a lot of people understand what they do. The most general blanket statement I can give for you guys to try to put it down in simplistic terms is basically dead zone settings refers to the amount that you move your analog stick in order for it to take place. So if you lower it all the way to like a 0.001 or 0.005, then you barely have to move your analog stick and it'll automatically take effect. The default values for dead zones I believe are at a 0.14 or at a 0.2. I know Epic like changed them at one point, but it's around that area. Now his dead zone settings for his left analog stick is set to a 0.10 and his right analog stick is set to a 0.05. Now the reason his right analog stick is almost at like the complete bottom is because of the fact that he says in his own words that he is actually very content with his aim. He knows his accuracy is pretty much on point, so he'd like his right analog stick to react exactly the second he obviously moves it. So this setting is going to feel definitely a little weird if you try to change it and you're not used to it, because dead zone settings, although they're kind of confusing, they really do make a big impact on your gameplay. So again, left analog stick is set to a 0.10, right analog stick is set to a 0.05. So that's pretty much all of his settings as of right now for Fortnite Battle Royale. Of course, keep in mind when he plays pubs, they might change, and obviously as weeks go on, new updates come out, new weapons, so on and so forth. Things are going to be fluctuating, things are going to change as he tries to adapt to it. So I'll definitely be sure to share with you guys when those setting changes are made and what they are exactly. If you guys would like to see any other controller Fortnite players or overall Fortnite players to learn what their settings are, leave a comment down below who you'd like to see. I'll more than likely be doing FaZe Sway's controller settings next. If you guys enjoyed today's video, a like would be very much appreciated. On the contrary, if you genuinely dislike today's video, then feel free to leave a dislike. Also, if you're new around here, then feel free to subscribe as well as turning on those post notifications if you'd like to see more daily Fortnite content like this in the future. With that being said, my name is Gamertag. Thank you all for watching today's video, and I'll see you tomorrow. Adios.